Hello everyone, how are you all? And let's start with today's video. And what we have today is actually we have previously we have already started an application that is called the Librarians and version 2.0. And in this application, we have discussed about how we create the whole library system where the library books are being managed and all the report sections and everything. So we have already started it, and we have a first part for this particular series, and this is the second part where we will be seeing how we can create a custom picker field for the interface, and we will work on basically on interface in this particular video. And this is my application which I have already created. I have created some groups. I have created three tables, and I have created CDTs for that table, and I have created few rules to fetch the student data because we have a table in which we have the student details, right? So if you see this, we have TL student record, and in this particular table, we have the student details. So what we are trying to do we are trying to create an interface in which we are fetching this particular student details. So let's see what we are trying to do previously is I'll open this interface. This is the main book request. So basically, whenever a customer, or in this scenario, the customer is the student or any of the official staff members, right? So whenever that come, and we need to create a request for that, right? So we can raise a book request form. So for that purpose, we are creating this particular book request form, and we are creating this interface. We have put requester name, means whoever will be taking that particular book, we will put that name inside this. So for example, for this scenario, we will write the student name inside this requester name. And what I have created for this particular requester name is I'll go inside expression mode. And because I've already created few of these local variables and logic behind this, so I'll show you how we can create it and how we need to create and work on this particular field. So basically, this field which I've created, this requested name, this is a picker custom field, right? So if you see what I have done, I have put this particular form layout. Inside that, we have a section layout. Inside that, we have contents, and inside the contents, we have a bank custom picker custom field, right? So what this custom field will do, this custom picker field will do, whenever I'll write something, whenever I'll like, for example, I'll write the letter A, then this particular field will give me suggestions, right? According to whatever letter I'm writing or according to whatever name I'm writing. So how this is happening, let's see this. So for this particular field, I have created, first of all, I've created a local variable. This is the student data local variable. And inside this local variable, I'm calling this rule TL fetch student details, right? So this particular rule will return all the data of this student, these students, right? We have already seen in this particular part in the previous video. So let's focus on this A bank picker field custom. And this picker custom field is basically we have label position, we have suggest function, right? So this is the main part where we have built this particular logic. If I write some letter here, then these suggestions are coming, right? So how these suggestions are coming, right? This is uh, not very difficult, but it is interesting, quite interesting to understand how this is working. So I'll open this particular rule which I've created, and this rule is TL custom picker student. So for this particular A bank picker custom field, what we need is this suggest function, right? And this suggest function, if I go inside this help text, let's try to understand what this suggest function will do. A reference to a rule or function that populates the suggested pane, right? That means obviously this is showing the suggested data, but how it is showing, the rule or function must take a single text parameter and must return a data subset. Means in this particular parameter suggest function, what we need to pass, we need to pass a rule, right? And that rule will take particular text, right, as a filter. So this is what we are passing. So and the result of this particular rule will be a data subset, right? So let's see what and let's go inside this particular rule and let's see what we have built. So we have created three rule inputs, right? And this rule inputs are, first is identifier. This is the array of text. The second is also the labels array of text. And the third is filters, which is the filter which we will be passing inside this particular rule. So the logic is basically, this is a simple logic where what we have done, first of all, we need to pass a particular list of identifiers and a particular list of labels. So what I'll do, I have already saved a test case. I'll run this test case and let's see how this will. I will click on this one and I'll run selected. And if I open this particular test case, this is my test case. So I'll try to run this. Let's see how it is working. If I go inside ad hoc, it is not coming. Okay. So what we can do, let's try to copy these values, right? And or we can write it by ourselves also. So list of text string. So what my scenario will be, right? Because I'll be having student names. So what I'm doing here, I'm just writing three names, right? Rohan. So I have the three names. These are the labels for that particular list. And I'll also create a identified list where I'll pass the value of that particular identifiers. Means this particular labels is like in the backend, we have these values for this. Just a scenario which I'm creating. And the filter which I want, for example, I just wanted to find out the name which is having V. So I'll try to test this rule. And you can see inside the data, right? First of all, we can see that return type is data subset, means as far as that particular suggested function, we are getting only the data subset. And inside that data subset, we have the data as well as the identifiers. Right. So this is my requirement, which is getting fulfilled. But let's talk about the logic first, how we are building this. So I have created a local variable, and inside that local variable, I have just used a simple a bank for each. Inside that for each, what I'm doing inside the items, I'm putting array bank labels, means this particular list, right? And inside the expression, what I'm doing, I'm using this search function, and this search function will return us the wherever, like for example, I'm finding V here. So the result of this particular search function will be the place where V exist, right? For example, this particular if I'll remove everything, right? Let's comment it out this one also, and let's comment out this particular where function also. To understand this, we are doing everything. We are commenting out everything. Just right now we have this for each, right? So we have this for each, and if I now I try to test this particular rule, so you can see first it will, for example, at the very first time when the iteration begins, it will return me 0 because inside Akshay I'm not having any kind of V, right? And inside the second iteration, means this will take this particular second name, and in the second iteration it will check where is this letter V. So it is at the position of, you can see at the very first position. So it will return me 1. And in this third name, there is no V, so 0 is coming. So let's change this particular V, and if I write A, then test this, then you can see in the first letter, A is at the very first place. In the second letter, A is at the second place. In the third letter, A is at the fourth place. So we are getting numbers, right? We are getting numbers. If I'm not having value, for example, I'll write X here, or if I'll write K, then at the very first name, we are having the K, right? But apart from this name, in these two, we are not having K. So we are getting 0 and 0. So what we have done, we will get this particular array after we use for each. And inside for each, we are using search. But when we use where function, then what it will return, because what where will do, whenever it will find true, means any of the number, basically it will return true, or it will return the index of that true. But when it finds 0 means false, then where will not return anything. So in this case, what where will return? Where will simply return 1 because at the 1 index we are finding the true. So if I test this particular code, then I'm getting 1, right? So for example, I'll write V here. So what it should return? It should return for this particular name, it will be false. For this particular name, it will be false. For this name, it will be true because it will return some number, search will return some number, and where will return the index of that particular. And if I test this, then I'm getting 2. Right. So for example, let's try to find out R. And if I'm right searching this particular R, then R is the at the third index because it's in row 1, right? So where is returning wherever the true condition will be available. And now I'll save this particular code inside local bank matches. And what I will do now, I'll uncomment this local bank matches and see if this is working fine or not. Yes, this is working fine. 3 is coming. And now I don't want this local bank matches. I want this data subset, right? So this is my requirement whenever I'll be passing this RI bank filter, right? Then it should return a bank data subset. And what I'm getting inside the data, I have used a bank data subset. I'm putting data and identifiers inside data. I'm passing I'm like, I have the RI bank labels, right? I have this particular list. So from this list, what I'm fetching the local bank matches because I got this index 3 and I'll only return the third index value, right? And for data, I'll return labels. For identifiers, I'll return identifiers, right? And particular rule ready. Save this rule and we can use this particular rule inside this suggest function. So what I'll pass here, right? Because this is a test scenario where we are passing this particular test cases, but in the real-time scenario, in my scenario, what we need to pass is we need to pass identifiers and the labels. So I am already having this student data. I have created 2 local variables. One is for student name and the other is for identifiers. So if you see the value here in the right hand side, you can see inside the identifier, I'm getting this particular 2 and 1. And inside these names, I'm getting list of names, right? So I'll go and I'll see whatever we have configured. And inside this selected label, I've configured for each, right? And this is complete, right? So right now this is complete. Inside suggest function, we are using this rule and we are passing identifiers, which we are passing labels, which we have the particular local variable. And inside the filter, we are passing this particular special text because we will be passing these values. For example, I'll pass 1. So whatever I'll write it here, it will automatically take and it will pass inside this particular function, right? So this particular rule is used for suggest function. We know how this suggest function is working now. And we know whenever I'm writing A or whenever I'm writing Y, then what it should return, right? So for example, I'll write Sharma, then it should only return this particular name, right? So this suggestion is working fine. We know how this suggestion is happening right now. So what we can do, we can move forward to selected labels, right? And what selected labels are, basically whatever I'm selecting here, for example, I'll select this particular name, then this label which is coming right now in this particular field, this is my selected label. And value, as we already know, whatever value of this particular label is there, we will have that value, and this will return the identifier. Whenever I am selecting this particular suggestion, this will return the identifier, and we are saving that identifier into RA bank book request, and we are like the value is also as same as the identifier, which is RA bank book request. But we will not show identifier on this particular field. So what we have done, we have used a bank for each, and we are like passing this particular whatever the ID is there, we are passing the same ID, and we are getting the ID label from this student name list, which we are having the local variable, right? So that name we will show it here, and in the backend we will store that particular ID in the respective particular variables. So I'm storing that student ID inside this particular. Okay, so I guess I have used book ID. So what I need to use? I need to use student ID here. Student ID. Right. So whenever the student will come, and let's try to refresh this. And in this same thing we need to do for this particular items. Now it's done. So whenever the student will come, I'll try to test this once. This is working fine. I'll save this. Whenever the student will come, the particular librarian will fill this form, right? And first of all, the librarian will select the requested name, like who is the student here, and then he will be selecting the date, from date, and to date. So right now, let's configure these particular variables also. And we have already created this from date and to date, and I'll use my RI bank book request dot from date for the value also. RI bank book request dot value, sorry, from date. Same thing what we need to do for to date. So we have this particular design function, and let's remove this from, and we will use to date, and same goes inside save into. So now if I try to select this particular date from 12th to 24, then the value is getting properly stored inside RA bank also, right? The value is coming properly. And this is standard or department. So whatever is standard the student should be. So for example, the student is in third standard. This is so small, but it's fine. Whatever the standard will be, I'll write it down standard here, and then it will get stored inside this particular variable. So we have the standard variable inside this particular. Okay, so we are not having standard inside this book request. Let's see what columns we are having. Okay, so this is the student details which is coming, but we are saving the details inside this main book request. So we have request ID, book ID, student ID, from and to. Okay, so we are only having student ID. We are not having this particular field, right? So what we need to do here, we need to, we don't need that, right? Because basically we are storing the student ID. So for example, this student ID, I'll store the second student ID in the book request. So I can easily fetch in which standard is the student, because this is the matrix table, right? So we don't even need this particular section. This is standard and department, right? So apart from this particular design object, what we can do, we can, first of all, what we need to do, we need to fill this whole table with all the books available inside my library, right? And then what I need to do, I need to put a column here, or like a field, a text field, where similar kind of thing we need to do. Right now, the max selection is one for requester name. So for that book request, I need to put, I need to rename this particular field to books, right? So I have basically two, three ways to do it. I can also use the same picker field logic, which I have done for requester. Or what I can do, I can use a drop down, or I can use a search drop down, multiple things I can do, right? So after this, I will configure this particular books field, and I need to search, the librarian will search whichever book is taken by that particular student. So the name is there, the date is there, and the particular books, and then this form will be completed. Or you can add, if whenever you are building that interface, right, you can add accordingly. For example, you need to add some different kind of fields. You have designed your table in a different way, and you wanted to add some more fields, then you can try experiment it, and that will be great. And for any queries, you can comment in the comment section. And you are also having my contact number and email address. So you can contact me if you're having any queries, right? So let's keep till this part today, and we can right now the form is complete, right? So how we will need to use this particular form to submit that particular book request. So in next video we will be seeing that how we can submit this book request form, and we will be creating a process model for that. And also after that we will be creating a record type to show whatever book request is there in the system, right, in the application. So that's all. Thank you so much, guys. See you in next video.